communism is this idea, right, that we can all, what is the old Marxist slogan, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. We don't need money and prices. We can all just acknowledge our fellow man and give to each person what they need and take as little as we need, and we'll have this communist utopia, right? Obviously, you could study the history of Soviet Union and whatnot. That doesn't work. It actually creates its opposite. You mentioned 100 million people dead. I think that's the number of also in Soviet Russia was around that amount. The practical implementation of this typically is called socialism. Now, this word, like capitalism, has a lot of different interpretations. I like Hoppe's definition. And he says that socialism is an institutionalized policy of aggression against private property. So it's this idea, right, that we can create one power that can arbitrate all the economic scarcity in the world, take in all the product from all the labor and capital creation in an economy, and dole it out arbitrarily in a way that's in accordance with the greater good, right? The ephemeral greater good that statists always cite. Now, capitalism would be the opposite of socialism. This would be, so if we, maybe to simplify socialism a bit, you could say this is socialized property. Like, you don't own anything individually, everyone owns everything. And there's a great quote actually by Aristotle. He says, when everyone owns everything, nobody takes care of anything. I think that's pretty well captures one of the consequences of socialism. There's no incentive to do anything productive because you don't get to keep any of the fruits of your labor. That's why the socialist systems collapse. Capitalism is the social cooperation that occurs under the institution of private property. So that's where you keep what you earn, the value you create, the business you create, the farm you plant, the house you build. You individually, or the individuals that contributed to it, own that thing, right? Or if I am the home builder and I'm paying laborers, right? They're trading their time to me for money. I'm paying them money. They're trading me their time and labor to build the thing that I in turn own because I paid them. So these are the two ends of the spectrum. And if we talk about just the pure nature of justice, I mean, I don't know that you could look anyone in the face and say, do you believe human beings should be able to keep what they earn? Like, do you, Tom, believe that a human being should have the rights to the value that they create? Like, if I build your table, if I build a table, like I bring the wood, I bring the skill, I bring the labor, I bring the time, the planning, the tools, I build it. Shouldn't I be free to trade this table with anyone else? Shouldn't I be free to burn this table? Should I be free to move this table into my house or take it anywhere? Like, is there any other model that makes sense? Is there any reason that I build this table that you should own it?
It's interesting. I can tell you what the pushback is. So first of all, let me say I am a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist. I believe in capitalism to my bones. I think that anything else violates the reality of human nature. But as you were describing that, I was like, okay, I know what the pushback is going to be. It's people that push back on the very idea of ownership. What do you mean? You brought the wood. The wood is from the earth, bro. You can't own the earth. Like, that's crazy town. What are you thinking?
You can appropriate from nature assets that are not being used. So if there are trees growing in the woods and no one's using them, no one's doing anything of value with them, you can appropriate them justly, just appropriation. You could read a book called...
People are going to argue with you on that. Not me, but people.
You could read a book titled The Ethics of Liberty by Rothbard, and he has a very detailed explanation of what is just appropriation and what is unjust expropriation, right? Where you're actually stealing from people. Because ultimately what we're trying to reconcile here is human action under conditions of scarcity. Now, we're not saying, and what's funny, because you say appropriating resources from nature sounds like something that's anti-ecological. Like, you don't, like, oh, I'm taking from the earth, I'm just stealing from the earth. But there's kind of a strange paradox, because under the institution of private property, we actually incentivize ecological conservation. If you are dumping pollution, if you have a factory producing widgets and you're dumping waste product into my river, right, that I own, or my creek or my stream or my land, whatever it is, I have an incentive to sue you or take action against you to prevent that dumping. So if it's unowned, right, if it's an unowned piece of land or creek, that you could just go dump there, and there's no, again, when everyone owns everything, no one takes care of anything. There's no one there that owns that piece of, that area that you're dumping into to sue you. But if someone owns it, they have an incentive to sue you. If they have an incentive to sue you, you now have to include that into your cost structure of your widget factory. So all of a sudden, you're not going to just be, it's very profitable to pollute, right? If you have this waste product coming out of your factory, you don't need it. You just need to get rid of it. The easiest and cheapest thing to do with it is just dump it where no one's going to mess with you. But if everywhere you dump it is owned property and it's protected under private property, then the individual proprietors that hold that land have an incentive to sue you, which means you will now have that encoded into your cost structure, which means you'll now have an incentive to dispose of that in a clean way, in a way that doesn't damage an ecology or the earth. So you have to, like, these things are not easy to understand necessarily. You can't just think one order deep, because you would think, oh, well, you're appropriating from nature. That sounds really bad for Mother Earth. But if you actually think two levels deep, maybe three, and read a book like The Ethics of Liberty by Rothbard, I think you'll see that capitalism and the institution of private property is the solution to almost every problem in the world.